how do we, so again, this is, so 30 anarchists in Edinburgh basically organised a mass movement of 18 million people who successfully defeated the jewel in the crown of this neoliberal legislation. Right, that's the good news, right? Bad news is, immediately it started coming in, as well as the problems of people like going, hey man, let's go and fucking throw Molotov cocktails at the cop shop. And we're like, going, no. We're not the anarchists, but actually, no. Can we just talk about doing the next leaflet and how we do our table outside the supermarket? And so there's all these tensions going on. But more practically, as soon as it took off, and the left saw, the rest of the left saw that this was going to be a big deal, the left moves in, right? And tries to take over. Suddenly the ISO are saying, hey, so we had, as good anarchists, as we mentioned earlier, one of the tenets of anarchism is kind of being a horizontal organisation, not hierarchical. So the first 9 groups that we set up in Edinburgh were just groups, right? We just met, and we had a small amount of people. You could have these face-to-face meetings, and you come to decisions, and then we had a federation. The 9 groups were in the Edinburgh Federation, which we send delegates, and the federation would decide what to do on a citywide basis. We kind of set out our emissaries across the UK. We made a kind of how to make your own anti-poll tax group pack. We sent speakers out, and so the anti-poll tax movement spread across Scotland and then across the UK. And it started again, it was largely by anarchists and our contacts, and this federation was a UK federation, as soon as you know it. As soon as this happens, the left moves in and decides to take over. So again, we've organised our anarchist principles, right? There's no voting, there's no elected members, it just kind of happens. Like Occupy, just kind of happened, right? So then the left moves in, and the left says, hey, why don't we have a chairperson and a secretary and a treasurer? And we've actually, because 20 of our members are in this meeting, let's have a vote who they should be. Now, because we were aware of who's the left in Edinburgh, when they tried to take over our 9 groups, so to speak, we had these awkward discussions with the non-political members of the group. Well, actually, that's a really bad idea to have a chairperson. They're going, why? And you don't want to get into the history of Spain. The guy, trying to sell you a copy of Socialist Worker might be, the devil incarnate. Nevertheless, we managed in our 9 groups to keep out the left. However, the left is not stupid, so they just set up their own groups. So they had, Southwest, South Side against So it went very quickly. The Edinburgh Federation went from 9 groups to 21 groups. And of course, those other, or whatever the math is, the majority of groups were dominated by the left. Very quickly then, the All Britain Federation of Anti-Poll Tax Union is dominated by the sectarian left. So there's that, again, so I'm talking about problems of organisation, and just letting shit happen doesn't really work when other people are better organised than you with a different agenda. Secondly, as is often the case, or sorry, arguably has been the case, I would say, since the 70s and 80s, the kind of foot soldiers of radical activity have actually tended to be anarchists. The kids, the youth, and even I was young once. The majority of people that tend to be involved tend to be, arguably, were more anarchist persuasion. There's a difference, of course, between the foot soldiers and the organisations. But it meant that because, again, to use cliche terms, we still had the power on the ground, despite what the Federation would say, we could actually still set the agenda. So, for example, the Federation didn't want to attack the Labour Party, because while the Labour Party was actually implementing the tax, all the local governments are typically Labour because they're Democrats, the same way as the Democrats run San Francisco, right? So the Democrats would be the ones imposing the tax and sending in the sheriffs. We could still attack the council meetings and blah, blah, blah. It meant, however, that we spent probably 50% of our organising efforts fighting the left, literally. So for us to actually disrupt the council meetings, so successfully in Edinburgh, every single time the council tried to put the poll tax on the agenda, on any manner, we would disrupt the meeting and make it possible to do so. Not only do we have to fight the police to get into the meeting and disrupt it, we have to fight the stewards of the Labour Party, whatever, to actually disrupt their meetings. And again, fight, occasionally physically, but force our way in. So we probably literally spent 50% of our organising time actually fighting our rivals on the left. So again, when we talk about organising the ends of the principle, so why are we doing it? So this is our second defeat, shall we say. We're doing it because we want to empower people to do it themselves, i.e. collectively, right? The rest, the authoritarian left, are doing it because they want to take over. We want everyone to take over. So we're doing this, we want to train, if you like, use that word, or empower. So undoubtedly we're the vanguard, right? We did it first. That's a contentious term, whatever. We were the first people to do it. We were the leaders. However, our logic was we want to train other people to run meetings. We want to train other people to organise committees. We want to train other people to do it. Were we successful in doing that part of it? Undoubtedly, because we did have a mass movement which succeeded on our terms. However, as anarchists, right, defeating an unjust law or tax is a tiny reformist victory, right? We didn't defeat capitalism, we didn't even unseat the horribly unpopular Conservative government. Margaret Thatcher was forced to resign because the tax was so unpopular. However, she was replaced by John Major, who was then voted in for another 10 years. So we didn't actually even bring down the evil Tories. We actually, you know, we enabled a palace coup amongst the Conservatives. You know, big fucking deal, right? Secondly, more importantly, our thought was we're trying to build community power. We're trying to build from the bottom up power. And if we can stop the sheriffs taking your telly, why can't we stop the sheriffs evicting you when you can't afford to pay your rent? Or when you get your heating turned off? Again, in Scotland, it's a big deal. 20,000 people die every year because of hypothermia, they can't afford heating. So why can't we stop the sheriffs turning people's electricity off? So, at the end of the 6-year campaign, which is successful in the sense of the defeat of the poll tax, we wanted to take that and move it on. And in doing so, we complete and utter failure. As soon as the poll tax was won, so to speak, it meant institutionally, they repealed the law.